Unexpected bond. Lonely CEO discovers an amazing dance lesson from a brave little girl in a wheelchair. The incessant phone ringing felt like a cruel joke, a reminder of the empty evenings spent alone in a penthouse that had become a gilded cage. Benjamin Carter, the 45-year-old CEO of a leading tech firm, stumbled through another day, his suit pressed but his spirit dulled. Outside his sleek glass walls, the city pulsed with life, but inside, a thick blanket of silence made his world feel desolate. Each call was a demand, a reminder of deadlines that swallowed every ounce of connection he once cherished. He closed his eyes, momentarily wishing he could turn back time, when laughter and family dinners filled his life. It felt like a distant echo, replaced now with spreadsheets and projections. In truth, those fleeting family moments seemed like brilliant fireworks extinguishing in a night sky that on a drizzly afternoon. Benjamin found himself drawn to his childhood neighborhood, that place where dirt bikes kicked up dust and laughter wasn't a memory, but a way of life. He stepped into the familiar streets, where the community center stood vibrant against the muted skyline, the heart of his youth. The sound of children's voices drifted through the door, a siren call to an existence he had long neglected. He hesitated just outside, a stranger to the joy that once enveloped him. But something pushed him inside. There she was, Lily, a cheerful 8-year-old girl in a wheelchair, her laughter sharp and bright as she led a dance class that felt alive with energy. Benjamin watched as she twirled with unabashed joy, effortlessly bringing the room alive. His chest tightened. This child, so full of spirit, made him feel like he was watching fireworks for the first time. The warmth spread through him like sunlight warming cold stone. For the first time in ages, a flicker of something, a long-lost happiness, ignited within him. He found himself becoming a regular at those dance classes, sitting quietly in the back, observing her intricacies. Lily's determination radiated through the studio. Her laughter echoed in contrast to the sterile boardroom discussions he had endured for years. He often felt on the verge of tears, tangled in a growing web of emotions. Here, in this small haven, he rediscovered innocent wonder, something he believed he had sacrificed for corporate victories. With every class, Benjamin engaged more, laughing and daring to share his own spirit, caught in the spell this brave girl had woven around him. But mounting pressures tugged at the edges of his newfound joy. His commitment to the company loomed over him like storm clouds threatening to pour. The more he bonded with Lily, the more he questioned everything, the life he chose, the sacrifices made. Could he really find solace in moments spent spinning and laughing, while the high-stakes world he crafted demanded his devotion? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the dance recital loomed closer, excitement mingled with terror. Benjamin felt his heart race as he contemplated taking center stage. The idea of stepping up to support Lily felt both thrilling and fraught with anxiety. The weight of his responsibilities bore down on him like a heavy fog, each dilemma swirling with urgency. Could he harmonize his role as a CEO with this unexpected connection that opened his heart? In that moment before the recital, he gazed into the mirror, rehearsing a corporate speech that suddenly felt trivial in the face of real joy. The rich sounds of laughter from the studio shattered his focus. He stood at a crossroad. The whispers of his contentious life taunted him, daring him to choose between the unwavering climb up the corporate ladder or to embrace a chance at true connection. Yet the thought of letting go terrified him. Could he face the truth that buried beneath years of ambition lay a longing for love? The day of the recital dawned with Benjamin's anxiety riding the air like a storm, electric and pulsating. The streets outside his penthouse were flecked with soft rain, nature's own applause, perhaps, as if acknowledging a momentous occasion. Dressed sharply in his tailored suit, he caught his reflection, an image of a man expected to conquer boardrooms rather than share laughter with children. What was happening to him? This eagerness to step out of the corporate shadow troubled him as much as it thrilled him. Arriving at the studio, he was greeted by Lily's exuberant smile that sparked a warmth within him, melting away the cold hesitation that had beset him that morning. He watched as she set up the stage, her small hands working diligently, her determination radiating in waves. The once daunting prospect of joining her gnawed at him from the inside out. Could he rise to meet her spirit, or was he doomed to remain a mere observer of this slice of joy? "Are you ready, Mr. Carter?" Lily's voice rang brightly, cutting through his self-doubt. The question was layered with innocence, yet it struck a delicate chord within him. He had never before been asked if he was ready to engage with life rather than merely control it. For the first time, he began to realize what this meant not just for Lily, but for himself. "Ready," he responded, his voice wavering slightly, an unexpected weight coupling with newfound resolve. "Let us dance," she exclaimed, urging him forward with a flick of her wrist. Something ignited at the sight of her unyielding spirit. He took a deep breath and joined the other kids scattered about, who were stretching and laughing, but he felt a world apart a toddler trying to walk. The confidence of their youth contrasted sharply with his well-honed persona. As the music began to pulse through the studio, almost metaphysical in its ability to pull at the strings of his heart, Benjamin felt the shift begin inside him. The rhythm spoke a language he hadn't realized he had longed to embrace. He stumbled at first, unsure of his feet, and caught a glimpse of Lily watching, her eyes alight with encouragement. With each misstep, an unexpected warmth surged through him, a release of tension he'd bottled for years. Here, there were no spreadsheets or boardroom battles, only connection, authenticity, and the raw development of joy. Benjamin began to mirror Lily's movements, exploring the beauty of simply allowing himself to be human, to express without the chains of expectation. Laughter bubbled forth, and he found joy inside the vulnerability. But the spell was punctured by the reality of his dual existence. As the song faded, so did his confidence, replaced by a creeping dread of returning to a life he was shackled to. Would he pull away from this vibrant expression, return to the silent halls where everything felt precariously perfect but devoid of life? With the recital drawing closer and Lily waiting eagerly for him to fully commit, an unsettling realization hit Benjamin. To embrace this connection meant he had to confront the life he led outside these vibrant walls. It was no longer enough to watch life unfold. He must choose to be part of it. What if I fail? The question slipped through his thoughts, heavy with consequence. The potential loss paralyzed him. Fail? That's just dancing, Mr. Carter. You can't fall if you don't try. Lily's spirited laughter resonated, and in that moment, the boundaries of his world seemed to widen. Benjamin found himself at a precipice, his internal conflict intensified. The path was unclear, the stakes elevated. As he watched children spinning with unfettered joy, he deeply considered, could he comprehend the balance between ambition and connection, between responsibility and happiness? The moment of truth compelled him, the call to face the pressures demanding his unwavering loyalty. To step forward and embrace both the delicate artistry of dance and the rigid expectations of his career posed a daunting challenge. He took a breath and stepped toward the crowd. What would he choose? The poignant battle raged inside him. Maybe, just maybe, he could discover a harmony between who he was and who he wanted to become. But would time allow him the freedom to explore that balance before the curtain fell? As the lights dimmed, Benjamin caught Lily's eye, a question thrumming between them. Would he step into brightness or retreat into the shadows? The decision loomed, a heartbeat away. The studio was now alive with chatter and laughter, a pocket of joy amidst the otherwise relentless pace of Benjamin's life. He stood in a corner, taking a step back to embrace the atmosphere, flashes of color, gleeful squeals, the infectious rhythm embracing him. Yet, even in this sea of innocence and exuberance, an internal tempest brewed. He weighed his options, a life colored by corporate success against the raw, untamed essence of expression that Lily and her friends embodied. If sensing his internal struggle, Lily scampered over, eyes wide with excitement. "We're ready for you, Mr. Carter. Come join us," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm like a beacon illuminating the shadows of his hesitation. The moment felt pivotal, lingering in the air like the soft melody that surrounded him. Could he abandon the heavy mantle of responsibility, even for a brief period? The specter of his obligations loomed large, but a flicker of rebellion ignited within him. For years, he had adhered to a stringent code of professionalism, regulating his thoughts, movements, and feelings like carefully plotted data points. But was this really living? "Join in, Mr. Carter," Lily pressed again, her voice a playful nudge at the back of his mind. That simple desire to engage filled him with a sense of vulnerability he had long shunned. In what seemed like a moment of clarity, he realized that the walls he had constructed were not fortresses, but cages. A small sigh escaped him, and he found himself nodding. Stepping onto the dance floor was akin to stepping into another world. The music thrummed through him, a pulsation that dictated each breath he took. Each spin, each leap executed by the children felt like a declaration of freedom, a challenging invitation to shed the constraints of his professional armor. Like tea first, self-consciousness threatened to undo him. The rhythm of the music seemed against him, each beat a reminder of how separate he felt from this joy-infused moment. Yet with each turn he attempted, every small act of abandonment to the joy surrounding him, he felt stories of his past unravel. "You're doing great," Lily cheered, lacing her fingers through his as they danced. In that gesture, the connection solidified. The simple act of trusting her felt revolutionary. Benjamin's heart raced as he mirrored her movements, gradually finding his own rhythm beneath the laughter. He lost himself in the fusion of movement and companionship, and for the first time felt alive. Still, a nagging voice whispered, "What foolishness is this?" He could almost hear the critical murmurs of his colleagues, the echoes of disapproval from tenacious ambition clawing back at him. With every joyful trajectory of his body, he confronted the bindings of fear he had allowed to tether him for far too long. As the rehearsal reached its crescendo, Benjamin found himself caught between exhilaration and self-doubt. He could envision his structured world, the expectation to perform perfectly, to lead without falter. A crisis surfaced, a moment filled with the potential for profound change or utter collapse. The realization that pursuing this delight would mean reevaluating everything he held dear, the pressures, the driving ambition, and the solitude wrapped in success surfaced overwhelming uncertainty. What if he pushed forward, sought balance, and failed on both fronts? Compliance with his corporate identity pulled like an anchor. Yet the emerging desire to reconceptualize his identity shined bright like a beacon of hope. Suddenly, a smile split Lily's face, a glimmer of unwavering support. "Let us show them what happiness looks like," she called out to the group, and the invite pierced through Benjamin's neurological fog, igniting a momentary rebellion against conformity. Stepping forward, he resolved to plant himself right in the midst of this unadulterated joy. The decision spiraled within him like the very music that flowed through the room, nurturing a commitment to both the tender innocence of a child and the potential of his adult responsibility. But what would this newfound embrace of fulfillment look like in the sterile, boardroom confines of his life? The clarity threatened to shift once more into chaos as he questioned the future implications of this dance. Could he genuinely integrate his burgeoning spirit with his existing identity? With the lights glimmering overhead, Benjamin found himself poised at another brink, staring into the wide-reaching depths of possibility. Each heartbeat echoed uncertainty, propelling him further into the exploration he had long avoided. The exhilaration built again, clamoring for resolution. What would he ultimately choose? the vibrant life before him or the sterile existence that both cradled and confined him. The choice loomed, both daunting and intoxicating, as he felt Lily's trust emanate towards him, a silent promise that he would not walk this path alone. The laughter and music enveloped him like an otherworldly embrace, striving to drown out the whispers of rationality that clawed at the edges of his consciousness. Benjamin found his feet moving to the melody, lured deeper into a realm that felt vibrantly foreign, yet achingly familiar. It wasn't just the rhythm, it was the liberation that each beat promised, a chance to shed the hardened layers of his identity, carefully crafted behind screens and board presentations. As the dance unfolded, he allowed himself to be swept away. His heart raced, not just from the exertion, but from the heady realization that, for the first time, he was enveloped in sheer acceptance. The children's laughter was pure and unguarded. It echoed a joy he had long since buried beneath the unyielding demands of his corporate life. The moment crystallized in his mind, a moment when reflection and action fused into a singular imprint on his psyche. Here, in this sanctuary of innocence, he was not the steel-plated CEO, the immaculate strategist whose decisions shaped quarterly reports. He was simply a man caught in a dance, discovering parts of himself he thought he had lost forever. With Lily by his side, he swayed harder. Each twirl was a proclamation. Each kick felt like an assertion of existence. But the thrill of the dance also brought along a swell of anxiety. Was this new feeling an aberration, or could it represent a path forward? Inner turmoil wrapped itself around him, creating a paradox where both joy and fear held equal measure. Benjamin paused mid-spin, the world momentarily blurring around him. He felt the gaze of his past colleagues who prioritized profit margins over personal fulfillment, mentors who advised caution in the pursuit of dreams. They lurked at the edges of his consciousness, a chorus of caution that resonated grimly, compelling him to step back. What if this failings dance left him vulnerable to the scrutiny he had long avoided? "What are you thinking?" Lily's voice broke through, steady and grounding. He inhaled sharply, but didn't answer right away. In truth, he was wrestling with a surge of conflicting emotions. His vulnerability felt like an exposed nerve, teetering between bliss and madness. How could he reconcile this burgeoning sense of joy with the cold, calculated expectations of his career? The dance floor seemed to demand authenticity, yet he was tethered to an identity steeped in conventions. "Don't be afraid to have fun, Mr. Carter. Everyone else is." She giggled, her laughter puncturing through his ambivalence, and he noticed the way her confidence radiated. Something stirred inside him as he realized that her presence was not just a light. It was an invitation to forge a bond deeper than transactional exchanges. Fueled by that thought, he rejoined the dance, surrendering further to the celebration of living in the moment, and for the first time dared to dream of a life more integrated and fulfilling. But with each leap of faith came another haunting realization. If he chose to embrace this path, certain aspects of his professional life might have to be dismantled. What would it mean to challenge the very foundation of his ambition? Each joyful pivot escalated his internal conflict. Could he genuinely pursue happiness when it seemed in direct opposition to his carefully constructed world? The tantalizing prospect of an authentic life glimmered tantalizingly. Yet so did the foreboding shadows of uncertainty. As he shared a laugh with Lily, the tension within him swelled. Again, her unyielding spirit held a mirror to his own hesitations. "Show them what happiness looks like," she had said, yet the word "show" implied an audience. Slowly, he realized that the true audience was not just the children dancing around him, but the world he would return to, the cold, relentless pace that had dictated his existence for years. In that fleeting moment, a thought crystallized. He was not merely dancing. He was on the precipice of a transformation. And as he caught a glimpse of the possibility that lay ahead, a new question emerged. What if, instead of fearing failure, he embraced his current path as a journey towards uncharted potential? As the last notes of music reverberated around him, he froze for a millisecond, the lingering pulse of exhilaration blending with uncertainty. He found himself at a crossroads, one that would demand a choice about his identity, purpose, and ultimately his happiness. But could he truly set foot into that world of potential while still tethered to the past? His heart raced again, but this time not in fear. This was hope flickering in his chest, beckoning him forward. What awaited him in the quiet moments when the music faded? Would the choices he made echo into the tensions of his corporate life? With the noise fading, he felt the weight of his dual identity pressing down upon him, and he knew the moment of truth was drawing near. The aftermath of the music felt paradoxical. Silence enveloped him, yet the echoes of laughter and joy lingered like a faint melody in his mind. Outside the vibrant bubble he had momentarily inhabited, Benjamin slowly regained clarity, allowing the shadows of his corporate existence to creep back in. Each lone node of tension unwound within him, shifting the exhilaration into a muffled desire to flee. He looked at Lily, still radiating energy, seemingly unaware of the storm swaying inside his mind. Her uninhibited spirit felt like a tidal wave crashing against the carefully constructed walls he had erected around himself. The boundaries of ambition and joy were blurring, and he couldn't help but wonder which of them would prevail. "Do you often dance like this?" he asked, his voice steadier than the flickering uncertainty within. "Only when it feels right," she replied, her eyes sparkling with the innocence of a child deep in play. "Why not live while you can? We're only here for so long, Mr. Carter." Her words echoed louder than the music that had filled the air moments ago. Living authentically, she implied. The concept felt terrifying yet enlightening, a paradox that spun out of control in the confines of his corporate mindset. The deeper he explored this impromptu bond, the more he recognized the tension within him, a tug-of-war between those professional identities, the benevolent leader and the self-serving executive, each fighting for his attention. As they concluded their dance, Benjamin noticed a group of children simply rejoicing in each other as company. He felt a pang of longing for the simplicity they embraced, a yearning that was vehemently foreign to him. The intricate web of his responsibilities, the corporate persona he had eagerly curated, was it all a preparation for a future he didn't even desire? His life revolved around tangible markers of success, promotions, accolades, and an insatiable quest for power. Each achievement, while accompanied by confetti-like satisfaction, brought him no closer to fulfillment. But standing there, sharing a moment of joy with Lily, he began to visualize new metrics defined by happiness, laughter, and genuine connections. The prospect of such a shift terrified him, causing sweat to form at the nape of his neck. "What do you want to achieve, Mr. Carter?" Her question landed squarely in the midst of his musings, and he faltered. The simple inquiry stripped him of all the calculated responses he had anesthetized himself with for years. He sought answers, but his mind was more a jigsaw puzzle than a map. I want to be," he stammered, trapped in the layers of his own ambition. But those layers felt suffocating now. What if abandoning them was the only way to unearth a truer self? What if it hurt? What if the cost of authenticity was too great? Lily watched closely, a quizzical look on her face, as if she was not only waiting for his answer, but also gauging the gravity of his struggle. "What if you let people see the real you?" she proposed gently, her innocence cutting through the contours of his doubts like a warm knife. Her words were a challenge, an invocation to dare the most vulnerable part of himself into the open. "People might not like what they see," he replied, the truth clawing at him. The fear of judgment loomed large in his mind, suffocating and inescapable. Maybe the people who matter will. Her unwavering belief was intoxicating. It flickered the embers of rebellion in his heart. The moment ignited something reckless yet exhilarating within him. Pursuing this vulnerability could redefine everything. Benjamin stepped back, scanning the scene around him. Conversations, laughter, innocent spontaneity, everything he had set aside for the pursuit of success. For the first time, he felt the pang of regret intertwining with a burgeoning drive to change. But one thought hovered ominously. If he dared to embrace his authentic self, who would remain by his side? The weight of indecision pressured him, compelling him to confront what lay ahead. Each choice branched into a future rife with potential, yet daunting adversities awaited. He would be pitted against the very standards he had built his ideals around. Benjamin could either cling to the status quo or take a leap into the unknown, a leap cushioned by the laughter of innocent children and the reminder of what joy felt like. Standing before this precipice, he felt the air vibrate with possibilities. If the dance represented one facet of his transformation, what other steps awaited him? And as the questions lingered in the air, another curiosity tugged at him. What would happen if he committed to this journey, embracing an uncertain path guided by authenticity? Would the consequences be liberating or catastrophic? It was time to choose, but he realized he might have to confront an obstacle far more daunting than any corporate challenge: his own fear of the unknown. The following morning arrived like an uninvited guest, dragging Benjamin from the remnants of last night's vibrant awakening. The crisp light filtered through his shades, disturbing the echo of laughter that still danced within him. He lay there for a moment, wrestling with the new frames of reference that flashed unbidden before his eyes: metrics of joy, authenticity, connections unshackled by his corporate veneer. Pushing off the covers, he swung his legs over the side of the bed, heart heavy with the weight of his decisions. Each movement felt like an uphill battle, the bed a sanctuary against the confrontation that awaited him in the corporate jungle. Today was a new day, and if he was truly to embark on a journey toward authenticity, it would need to begin here and now, in the quiet solitude of his home. As he dressed, Benjamin caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. The reflection held the same tailored appearance society expected, yet it felt disjointed from the pulse within him that had stirred under the guidance of Lily's playful spirit. His shirt, immaculate and structured, symbolized the very constraints he hoped to dismantle. With a sudden boldness, he ripped it off, tossing it aside as if shedding skin. The revelation that what he wore could manifest as shackles invigorated him. Instead, he chose a simple button-up, softening the rigid lines of his brand. Both the fabric and cut felt unfamiliar, a representation of vulnerability. He stared at his reflection and practiced a smile that felt less rehearsed, one that emerged from a newfound hope rather than obligation. Today, he decided, he would walk through the glass doors of his office, embracing the possibility of being himself. Stepping into the office, the familiar hum of activity washed over him, yet the cacophony felt foreign compared to the scent of community he had experienced the previous night. Employees buzzed around him, engaged in their customary routines and conversations, but Benjamin sensed a shift within himself, an alertness humming beneath his skin. He felt connected to the rhythm of this place, but also distanced by his intent to be more than just a title or an entity defined by success. "Morning, Mr. Carter," greeted Tom, a junior analyst, an eager smile spreading across his face. "Morning, Tom," Benjamin replied, his voice uncharacteristically warm. The response surprised them both, and a ripple of recognition sparked between them. Tom paused, his brow slightly furrowed, unsure whether to probe deeper or retreat into the safety of professionalism. "Have a good day, sir," Tom said, navigating the delicate balance between respect and curiosity. "Wait, Tom," he called as the young man turned to leave, the impulse to connect swelling inside him. "Can you bring me that report? And, how's your project coming along?" Tom's eyes widened, sensing the significance of his sudden interest. "It's going well. Actually, I'm good. I'd like to hear more about it later," Benjamin interrupted, surprising himself with the sincerity. The truth was, he wanted to learn from the people around him, not just direct them. As the day unfolded, Benjamin approached his responsibilities with a lighter spirit. He interacted freely with team members, absorbing their thoughts and embracing the openness he'd neglected. Each conversation became a thread that wove him closer to their experiences, underpinning his growing realization that leadership transcended mere delegation. True leadership began with listening. Mid-afternoon brought his weekly executive meeting, where polished suits and rehearsed dialogues collided with jargon-heavy discussions. Benjamin sat at the head of the table, feeling the weight of expectancy crash against the newfound resolve course through him. As he listened to pitches and progress updates, the corporate talk began to grind his senses raw. "This is a performance review," someone suggested, flashing a clipboard. "We need to tighten our goals for the upcoming quarter." Suddenly, the chasm widened beneath him. The pressure of corporate metrics felt absurd against the joyful metrics he longed to embrace. Palming the table, he inhaled deeply and locked eyes with his peers, individuals he had steered through appointments and promotions. But beyond their professional facades, he glimpsed the humanity in their ambitions, doubts, and desires. "I want us to rethink our goals," he proposed, pushing off his unease. "Let us consider how we can foster a culture that is not just based on numbers, but on collaboration and genuine growth." Silence hung thick, smothering the room. It was the kind of silence that became a harbinger of uncertainty. The immediate reactions varied, but what coursed through him was a spark of defiance against the judgment of the old systems he was beginning to reject. The battle within himself had ignited. He was prepared to face off against the very essence of what he previously believed. What if we valued our employees' happiness and input as much as we do our profit margins? He pressed on, feeling a rush of adrenaline at the honesty of his words. Would they follow him into this new realm, or would they retreat in disapproval? Glancing around the table, he noted expressions that ranged from intrigue to disbelief. But the moment hung there like a pendulum caught between his past and a future laden with potential. And then the pivotal moment arrived. Would they silence his boldness, or would they risk stepping into authenticity alongside him? A decision hung in the air, teetering on the brink of his transformation, poised to redefine what success truly meant. As he awaited their responses, an unexpected question crept into his mind. Was he ready to face the real consequences of this authenticity, both in his career and in his personal life? The silence that followed his question felt as heavy as concrete, weighing down on Benjamin's heart. The room's atmosphere shifted. The familiar clamor of corporate expectations was replaced by an almost tangible tension. He was prepared for indifference, even scorn, but there was an unexpected glimmer of intrigue in their eyes. Did they crave change as much as he did? Benjamin, John, the head of marketing, finally spoke up, a frown creasing his forehead. "It's a bold perspective, but how do you expect us to implement something so radical? Our metrics guide us. They give us direction." Benjamin felt a tightening in his chest at the challenge. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a confrontation of the very beliefs that had governed his career. He had to tread carefully. What if we reframed those metrics? He countered. What if we considered employee engagement and satisfaction as equally crucial? The room buzzed with murmurs of concern and curiosity. Was he losing them, or was he finally capturing their interest? In his mind, he ran through an evolving script of responses, layering boldness with humility. "Let us pilot a few initiatives," he suggested, trying to ease the apprehension. "We can gather feedback from our teams, perhaps implement a creative suggestion program." His confidence wavered, but returned as he recalled the laughter and warmth of the night before. "Let us ask our employees what they need from us to thrive." The reactions were mixed. Some nodded, intrigued by the prospect of genuine engagement. Others crossed their arms, clearly suspicious. But as he scanned the room, he caught Tom's eyes again, radiating a spark of hope. It hit him this could shift everything. Our ultimate goal, to create an environment that not only pushes results, but also cultivates loyalty and passion. Benjamin asked, "Imagine what we could achieve if everyone truly felt invested in our mission." John's expression softened ever so slightly, but skeptical lines remained etched in his brow. "And if the results don't follow?" He pressed. "What we're selling is still a business." Anger simmered just beneath Benjamin's surface. Was he at businesses that thrived on trust and innovation? He knew he had to sidestep defensiveness. Instead, He focused on transparency. If we can initiate real conversations, we can reshape our understanding of success. We owe it to ourselves and our employees to try. The air felt charged as he looked around the room, gauging their reactions. The tension shifted slightly, like a chess game poised for movement. He desired to encourage them to see beyond their walls, to find potential buried in the heart of their organization. What if we allocate a small percentage of our resources to explore this, see where it leads? He proposed, heart racing at the boldness of the idea. We could encourage risk-taking within reason, support collaboration initiatives, and tap into the wellspring of creativity among our employees. The moment teetered on the brink of change. It felt monumental, yet frighteningly tenuous. Would they genuinely embrace this new path? Or were they too entrenched in tradition? I can't advocate for ideas that undermine our structures, John finally replied, but his voice lacked the harshness of before. However, if you're willing to take the lead on this, I'll support it to an extent. Relief washed over Benjamin, mixed with an undercurrent of urgency. They were on the precipice of transformation, but there was still a long way to go. Today's meeting had sparked potential, but the real battle lay ahead: how to maintain this momentum while facing inevitable resistance from the upper echelons. As the meeting adjourned, Benjamin gathered his papers and felt the burden ease somewhat. He had taken a step, one that stretched beyond mere aspirations into the realms of true leadership. But doubt nagged at him. Would his team stay engaged and committed when the allure of metrics returned to haunt their discussions? As he stepped into the hallway, a single thought anchored itself in his mind. Could he find allies among his colleagues who would champion this vision alongside him? In that moment, Benjamin decided he would not only advocate for authenticity at work, but also seek it in his relationships. With renewed determination fueling him, he decided to reach out to Lily, hoping to harness her charisma in a different realm. Perhaps together they could find a way to ignite change, and if there was anyone who could guide him through the labyrinth of corporate hesitation, it would be someone unafraid to dance, even when facing adversity. But as he took out his phone, a nagging question resurfaced. What vulnerabilities would he need to confront in himself to truly inspire others? That realization hung uncomfortably in the air, compelling him to reckon with the deeper implications of his quest. The fluorescent lights flickered above as Benjamin made his way through the sleek corporate corridors, a tangible buzz of energy humming in his veins. Each step felt like a pulse toward the new beginning. He had initiated a crack in the facade of tradition, but how would he sustain it? As he navigated the maze of his thoughts, he felt a growing urgency to turn his abstract ambitions into concrete actions. His phone buzzed repeatedly, a jarring reminder that the world outside the cocoon of his vision awaited him. If he was going to make real change, he couldn't remain isolated in his ideas. Reaching out to Lily was a calculated move, one that could either amplify his effort or leave him stranded in an echo chamber of his own making. He mentally reviewed his previous encounters with her unwavering spirit, the way she saw possibility in every challenge. It dawned on him. This connection could be more than a professional alliance. It could be the very transformative force he needed. He hesitated for a moment at her desk, his hand hovering over the neatly stacked papers. Could he articulate his vision with clarity? Would she listen? Finally, he summoned the courage and knocked lightly. Her face brightened as she glanced up, and that spark of enthusiasm reignited his intent. Lily, he started, his voice steady but laced with underlying apprehension. I'd like to discuss some ideas on how we can shake up our approach to team engagement. I know that you understand the human element of this industry. Her smile broadened, infectious, as she gestured for him to sit. I'd love to hear what you have in mind. I can sense the fire within you. She chuckled lightly. What's fueling this passion? He took a deep breath, diving into his vision for a workplace that prioritized authenticity and emotional connection. Benjamin carefully articulated his desire to introduce programs that focused on employee well-being, collaboration, and innovative thinking, weaving in the notion of testing new waters despite the uncertainty. Lily leaned in, nodding with a fervent interest that encouraged him further. "That S-bold," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "But what if it doesn't work?" He felt the weight of her question like a stone lodged in his throat. What if it does? The challenge hung between them, and he realized it wasn't just a question, it was a litmus test for commitment. "I need to show the team that the fear of failure shouldn't paralyze us. It should motivate us to grow." She paused, considering his words with the intensity of a dancer preparing for a leap. "You're right." Her voice was resolute. "But even if we leap, we have to be prepared for the fall. How confident are you in your own willingness to embrace vulnerability?" That was the question he and anticipated, one cutting deeper than the corporate facade he had been so eager to dismantle. His instincts reacted, pulling him towards defense, but instead he forced himself to lean into the discomfort. "I'm ready, I think," he replied, each word a deliberate choice, but still finding my way through my own fears about this. As they spoke further, Benjamin realized he wasn't just constructing a framework. He was embarking on deep introspection. He hungered for change not only around him, but within himself, a personal revolution, birthed in the crucible of exposure and honesty. Their conversation flowed seamlessly, evolving into a partnership rooted not just in professional aspiration, but mutual respect. He felt within him the seeds of potential begin to take root. Igniting the spirit of change would demand more than just strategy. It would require vulnerability, a willingness to admit doubt, and to invite others into the process. As their meeting came to a close, Benjamin took one last look at Lily, her enthusiasm igniting a flicker of hope within him. But in the back of his mind lingered a question. Was he genuinely equipped to navigate this new partnership while confronting his own uncertainties? As he stepped out of the conference room, determination surged through him. Perhaps it was time to address those unsettling vulnerabilities directly. No longer just ideas, but plans realized through action. Who would he become in the process? And could he inspire his colleagues not only to follow, but to believe? With those questions swirling in his mind, Benjamin felt a shift. Was it anticipation or fear? The next steps were critical, and the stakes higher than ever. He needed to face not only those within the corporate structure, but the inner turmoil that could either propel or hinder him. As he returned to his desk, he couldn't shake the feeling that the journey he had begun was not just outward, but deeply inward. Would he emerge a stronger leader, or would he be undone by the very vulnerability he sought to embrace? The hum of the office swallowed him as Benjamin settled into his chair, the familiar noise barely registering beneath the weight of his thoughts. He felt the fierce determination to implement his ideas intertwining with the anxiety of vulnerability. The firm's hierarchy felt burdensome. Every email and meeting transformed into a potential minefield of judgment. Would his colleagues share Lily's vision, or would they oppose change, entrenching themselves in their comfortable routines? He opened his laptop, and the screen flickered to life, offering a blank canvas for all that he aspired to achieve. As he formulated the foundations of a training session focused on emotional intelligence and creative risk-taking, he couldn't escape the creeping fear that his inexperience would condemn him. Would his efforts fall flat, rendering his vulnerability a folly rather than a strength? Moments later, he found himself staring blankly at the blinking cursor. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a tool of potential, it felt like a countdown to failure. Rubbing his temples, he recalled Lily's steady gaze, her confidence unwavering even amid uncertainty. That flicker of hope regrounded him. Perhaps he could use that hope as a lifeline, transforming both their professional dynamic and his own self-doubt into a source of radical innovation. With renewed purpose, he selected a few articles on successful corporate culture shifts and began drafting an email. By the time he hit send, the commitment to act felt tangible, yet an unpleasant flutter churned in his stomach. What had spurred his unexpected push into vulnerability now sat heavy in the back of his mind, the doubts creeping in like unwelcome guests. His phone vibrated again, a message from Lily. "Looking forward to hearing your plans. Want to brainstorm together later." He hesitated. Was it truly wise to invite collaboration on something so fragile he could barely articulate it? Fear whispered insidiously, urging him to quell any suggestion of uncertainty. Yet, beneath that trepidation, an undeniable thrill rang clear. Perhaps embracing her enthusiasm would empower him. "Sure, I'd love to," he replied, a sense of liberation creeping into his fingertips as he typed. The hours rolled on, each tick of the clock underscoring the urgency pulsing through his veins. When evening arrived, he found himself mentally rehearsing every detail of their meeting. He wanted to convey not only a plan, but a dynamic vision, one that seamlessly intertwined goals of connection and vulnerability. As they gathered later, his palms began to sweat, the echo of his racing heartbeat underscoring the enormity of this interaction. He looked across the table at Lily, whose confident focus eased his tension slightly. "I'm ready to take the leap with you," he heard himself declare, surprising even himself. "Let's dive in then." She grinned, her exuberance reshaping the air around them. As they brainstorming became a collective effort. Ideas flowed more freely than anticipated, igniting discussions about prototypes for new engagement strategies. Team retreats centered around emotional sharing, nurturing creativity, and bolstering trust. However, just when momentum seemed to crest, Benjamin noticed something, a lingering tension beneath his excitement. A clash of ideas surfaced between him and a few departments, and it sent ripples of doubt through their plans. Would they be received with open arms, or would the creative tensions create rifts far deeper than he dared to imagine? As they crafted action plans, the fear of institutional pushback loomed. He felt the walls closing in, the weight of his initiative pressing down as anxiety circled like an ominous shadow. "Are we prepared to face any opposition?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. She paused, giving him a moment before responding. "It's a natural fear, but that's what makes it more important. Embracing adversity is part of the process." The conviction in her words held power, yet Benjamin couldn't shake the gnawing regret that his own doubts could jeopardize their initiative. Would they not only face external challenges, but also his internal demons? With every suggestion tossed around that table, the question remained, could his resolve withstand the scrutiny inherent in forging change? As they finalized the format of their proposal, Benjamin felt the exhilarating terror of what lay ahead. He was standing on the precipice, peering into the unknown of his own potential. But at the brink of clarity, a thought struck him. Deep down, he questioned whether he could withstand the push and pull of this new identity he was crafting. The moment drew near to present their ideas, and Benjamin's heart raced, each thundering beat echoing uncertainty in his mind. Was he ready for the consequences? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and with it, the devastating possibility of failure. The day had finally arrived for Benjamin Carter to present his proposal. He stood before the board, the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. This was not merely a presentation. It was his declaration of a new beginning, one intertwining authenticity with ambition, joy with responsibility. The polished, corporate setting felt paradoxical against the raw energy that coursed through him. For the first time, he was not just the CEO, but an individual fully aware of the necessity of connection. As he began speaking, Benjamin felt the rhythm of his heart syncing with the flow of his thoughts. "Our organization thrives on metrics," he stated, his voice resonating with surprising conviction. "But it's time we redefine success to include our people's happiness, well-being, and creativity." The eyes in the room shifted, sensing the energy vibrate between the words. But he was met with expressions that ranged from skepticism to caution. Yet, rather than retreat, he leaned deeper into the challenge. "I want you all to imagine a workplace where every employee feels heard," he continued, allowing a palpable passion to emerge. "By prioritizing connection, we cultivate loyalty and inspire innovation. Let us pilot initiatives that encourage open dialogue, where risk-taking is embraced and creativity is a core component of our structure." His heart raced, not from fear, but from the burgeoning realization that he no longer needed to hide behind a facade of sterile professionalism. A.S. Benjamin reached the premise of his proposal. He noticed John leaning forward, a glimmer of intrigue piercing through his previously resistant demeanor. "And if these measures do not improve our metrics?" John asked, skepticism lacing his tone. In the face of doubt, Benjamin held the weight of belief. What if metrics aren't the only measure of success? It's not simply about retaining numbers, but nurturing a dedicated team. We can evolve our understanding of productivity. A silence filled the room, electric and charged. The executives glanced at one another, a silent dialogue of consideration unfolding. He could feel the pull of his vulnerabilities. Once again, the fear of failure was not a fleeting thought, but an acknowledgement of what lay ahead. "Let us take a leap together," he urged, his voice unwavering, forging a path toward empowerment within their corporate culture. He could sense a shift. The conversation breathed life into the air, drawing out the potential that hovered just beneath the surface. Leaving the meeting room, Benjamin felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Although he had not received unanimous approval, he had ignited a fire of possibility. The response to his authenticity was a win in itself. The lines of communication he had opened felt exhilarating and simultaneously terrifying. They would pursue these changes, but it wasn't just for the benefit of the company. It was a personal revolution. Days turned into weeks, each moment chipping away at old beliefs. The collaborative spirit Benjamin had hoped to cultivate started to take root within the organization. He witnessed team members engage with enthusiasm he never expected, the once sterile atmosphere rippling with laughter and genuine connection. It proved transformative, not only for the company, but for Benjamin himself. His meetings shifted from agenda-driven debates to heartfelt discussions about aspirations and fears, each exchange enriching his understanding of leadership. Through this transformation, Benjamin discovered an undeniable connection to Lily. The courage she embodied illuminated his path as he navigated through the delicate balance of professional expectations and emotional fulfillment. He began incorporating dance sessions at work, drawing parallels between movement and creativity, inviting employees to see risks as opportunities rather than obstacles. One afternoon, as he prepared for another pitch, the office filled with excitement, his proposal for a new employee engagement initiative teamed with creativity and support. He caught himself smiling as he entered the presentation room. Today, he was not just a leader, but a participant, ready to inspire and lead a revolution of connection. "Let us show them what happiness looks like." He echoed Lily's words to his team, the sentiment enveloping the space like a comforting embrace. The room erupted in laughter and applause, and in that moment, Benjamin finally acknowledged the weight of his personal achievement. He had conquered the chasm between his ambitions for success and the authenticity that had been dormant within him. He left the meeting. Benjamin felt not only the pride of accomplishment, but a sense of liberation. The shackles of ambition that had once bound him now lay shattered. He strode down the hallway filled with a profound sense of self-realization, finally finding clarity in who he had become. The world outside pulsed with energy, and as he stepped onto the busy street, he knew he would no longer be a mere observer of life. He could harness joy and connection as values to lead his organization into a braver, more inclusive future. This was the moment he had transformed, not just for himself, but for all those who believe in the power of authentic existence. Boldly stepping forward into the unknown, Benjamin knew he had conquered more than just the boardroom. He had embraced a life filled with meaning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Your thoughts are what we crave. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this inspiring journey of personal growth.